Hi, I'm Professor Michael Wainaina, the founder and director of academic programs at Midas Boys High School. When I talk to parents about what you're doing at Midas, they ask me, what's different, what's new, and why do you think that you're doing something that other schools are not doing? And I try to take them back to when they were in school and ask them, when did you leave school? How many years ago? 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And then I ask them, how much has the world changed since you left school? And the answer is that the world has greatly changed ever since they left school, and that does not really matter how far back they left school. Could be 10 years, could be 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. And then I ask them, the world has changed a lot since you left school. If you go back to the school where you were 10, 20, 30 years ago, what do you think will have changed about that school? And the answer is that very little, or nothing has changed, or in some fairly surprising cases, the school is actually worse off now than it was then. And then I ask, so what do you think that school would offer your son in a world that has greatly changed, and yet the school itself has remained the same over the years? And that is where we, as Midas International Boys High School, come in. We are based on the principle of transformation and modernization of education. And the question is, what is modern education? And there are three very important factors that educationists identify as being a marker of modern education. Number one, a learner-centered approach. Number two, collaborative learning. And number three, the incorporation of ICT in the delivery of the curriculum. We have done certain things in order to modernize our education systems to achieve those three things. That is a learner-centered method of delivery, collaborative learning, and incorporation of ICT in what we're doing. And the first thing that we have done in order to meet that modern educational setting is to change the architecture of the classroom. You will recall that in the traditional classroom, you have the teacher in front of the classroom and the students seated in rows facing the teacher, meaning that the teacher becomes the center of the learning process. So what you will notice about our classrooms is that we have the door in the middle and we have a board on both sides of the classroom, so that the Midas classroom does not have a front and it does not have a back. And then we have changed the seating system from the traditional row system where students sit facing the teacher, and we have introduced the revolutionary conferencing method of sitting in class. What that does is that it removes the teacher from being the center of the learning process. It puts the student at the center of the learning process, but it also makes collaborative learning possible. As far as incorporating ICT in the delivery of the curriculum is concerned, we have brought the computer in the classroom so that students will have to use ICT resources and internet resources in the learning process inside the classroom. They do not have to wait and go to a lab somewhere where the computers are kept. So that by changing the classroom and incorporating ICT inside the classroom, we are able to deliver learner-centered method of learning. We are able to deliver collaborative learning, and we are able to make sure that ICT is an integral part of the delivery of the curriculum. And then one would want to know, how has this really changed or impacted on the learning process? You will find that our students are able to work together on solving educational problems and use the ICT resources that have been provided for them in the classrooms, so that what our system has availed the student is a modern learning environment that makes sure that the student is connected to the world, can access information in real time, but beyond that, he is able to be part of a learning community that helps him in processing that information and in acquiring knowledge. The advantages that we get from incorporating ICT in the teaching and learning process go beyond the classroom and the resources that are available for the student in the classroom. We use the modular object-oriented dynamic learning environment, abbreviated as Moodle, as our learning management system. And what that learning management system allows us to do is to avail learning to students in a virtual environment, meaning that we can be able to teach our students even when schools are closed.
The Moodle has taught me a new way of learning through the internet, instead of always using books, which might sometimes bring boredom. So the new way gives your mind something new to think about.
So that at Midas, we have a teaching arrangement that goes throughout the year because the virtual environment enables us. We are also able to leverage other online resources like Facebook and use them as educational platforms by taking a modern approach to the teaching and learning process, and by making collaborative learning the approach that delivers on this promise to our students. We have been able to create a free, expressive, and creative learning environment where our learners not only get the knowledge and information that they come to school to, but they do it in an enjoyable and in an environment where they feel appreciated as learners and as co-investigators with their teachers. In delivering a modern learning environment, one of the important things to bear in mind is the ability of the teacher to deliver on that system. And what we do at Midas is that we retool and retrain our teachers to make sure that they are competent enough to handle a modern learning environment, and they are able to incorporate learner-centered methods, they are able to incorporate collaborative learning, and they are able to efficiently use ICT to deliver curriculum content.
My experience has been enriching. I have learned so many different ways of teaching. For instance, when I joined in, I had to adjust what I had learned from campus to what was being offered in the school. I had to change the way I teach in class and use learner-centered methods to achieve my objectives at the end of the lessons. I also had to change the way I had thought about how knowledge is gained, from the teacher being the one with the knowledge and giving it to the students. But then I had to get to know that students also have information. They can access it online through the internet, through the portal, through cyberspace. I got retraining on how to use Moodle. I got to learn that Facebook doesn't just have to be used as a social networking site. You can also use it for educational purposes.
As the Director of Academic Programs, I endeavor to have our teachers constantly upgraded and regularly supported to effectively deliver in a modern learning environment. This is an important undertaking in making our promise of modernizing education possible. Beyond making the experience worthwhile for our teachers and our students, our parents have come to greatly appreciate the kind of learning environment that we have created for their children at Midas, and most of them are happy that they made the decision to bring their children to Midas in the first place.
But Midas seemed to offer me the kind of school I'm looking for, with a different approach in terms of how they are relating education to technology and how they are approaching their, developing children to have self-esteem and how to develop their own talents. And basically Midas seems to have the future of education, and that's the reason why I took my son there. And it was very timely, being that at the moment not many schools are doing what Midas is doing. And then their use of e-learning, e-education, it's the way forward. For me, that's the future of education. And that's one of the major reasons why I took my son there. And for me, for any parent that's looking for a school for a boy and needs to approach education with a different mindset, Midas is a place to go.
I hope that you can now see and appreciate why the Midas learning experience is different and why the modern child would greatly benefit from this learning environment. I do hope that you will avail this learning environment to your child and join the ranks of the many students and parents in the Midas community who are happy to learn in a modern environment.